Hello everyone, welcome to Alcoholics Anonymous Hour. My name's Dave, forever an alcoholic. Can we start off, Billy, just by saying a big thanks to you and everybody here at the Black Country Radio for giving us this opportunity again to help us raise the awareness of AA. We really appreciate it.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you. We're shortly going to be introducing one of our members who are going to share their story with us. Before we do that, I'd like to ask Dec to read the preamble that we use at the start of every meeting. This tells you very simply what AA is, what it does, and I guess what it doesn't do. Dec.
Thanks, Dave. My name is Dec and I'm an alcoholic. This is the AA preamble. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other that they must solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety.
That's great, Dec. Thanks for that. And can we now get our guests today to introduce themselves, please?
So my name's Rob, I'm an alcoholic.
Welcome, Rob, and thanks for coming along today to share your experience, strength and hope with us. Could you start us off by giving us some idea about your background, where you're from, your childhood, etc.?
Yeah. I came into AA quite a long time ago in 1986. So I've been around the fellowship the best part of 38 years.
Wow.
I haven't been sober 38 years. It's just over 35 years. But it was never my intention to be an alcoholic when I grew up. It was something that shocked me as much as anything. When I came into AA, I was probably stereotypical suburban man. You know, I had a wife, 2 kids, 2 cars, electric lawnmower, and thought I was sorted. And the reality was that I was finding that my drinking was becoming more and more a problem, and it was costing me a lot more than money. It was costing me self-respect and dignity. And I arrived in AA aged 28, having been thrown out of a hotel at about 4 o'clock in the morning. So I came into AA, I heard people say things that I didn't relate to. People have been to prison, people have been in psychiatric units, people have been on treatments that I just didn't have. So I felt really like I didn't belong. Although I knew drink was a problem, I didn't think I was an alcoholic.
Can I just take you back to give us some idea about your drinking, when you started drinking and the sort of consequences that had?
Yeah, I came from a big Irish family, so drinking was always part of our sort of home life. There was always trouble, there was always drinking. I never wanted to be a drinker, but like a lot of kids, I aspired to things and I wanted to do things that were sort of way beyond the realities. And I started to drink probably around 16, 17, got into situations at 17, and really I got into sort of a life that I really am not proud of. I discovered that I could use alcohol to change the way I felt. I didn't really have an early problem in so much as the first few drinks, you know, I'd be like everybody else, happy-go-lucky and enjoying it. Mm-hmm. But I was always the kid who'd just carry on and couldn't leave it alone, and always got into situations that led usually to violence or trouble, and it caused a lot of pain to a lot of people. When I was a young lad, I was determined not to be like them, as I put it. Mm-hmm. Them was being my family, which was a lot to do with the alcohol in the home and the violence that went with it, the unnecessary poverty. And at 17, I left home, and very soon after leaving home, I started acting out in an alcoholic way. And over the years, I've discovered that the alcohol wasn't the problem, that I was the problem. Mm. And what I did with my emotions and the way I felt was I used alcohol to change the way I felt. Yeah. Mm. some people in AA used to say that they took a drink, they did something bad, and they felt really terrible about it. And I never understood why they had a problem with that, because I thought, well, are you drunk? Whereas in my life, I sort of did something bad, felt really bad about it, and then drank to get to oblivion as quick as I possibly could. So drink was always a symptom of my problem. And I know in AA we talk about a disease and an illness, and I always thought that was a bit of a cop-out. You know, oh, I've got an excuse. I'm not bad. You know, I'm
just
ill.
not well. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because that, to a certain extent, that's true. But we learn in recovery to accept the responsibility for the way we live our lives and how we change the way we did things. And over my first 2 years in AA, I discovered that just being part of AA doesn't mean I'm going to get well. I bought all the books, I came to the meetings, I usually arrived late and left early, and then 2 years later I'm drunk again because I've done nothing about my recovery. And
just taking you back again, what got you to get to AA in the first place? I mean, when did you realise that you had a problem? What was your rock bottom, as we call it?
Yeah, I think waking up in a hotel. Being thrown out of a hotel at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
You know, a hotel that I'd used professionally, and the firm that I work for used it professionally, and now my drinking has now cost me my job.
Right.
And I found myself, instead of just drinking like a normal, ordinary person, I would drink till the very early hours. I would drink. Any situation that came up in life, I would drink, and I blamed everybody. I blamed my then first wife, my employers. I blamed my Irishness. I blamed everything that I could, bar me.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, there's a catalogue of alcoholic behaviour from around 17, and it involved, you know, as I say, stuff I'm not proud of. My morals went west. I was carrying a knife and a firearm from a young age. And for me, using alcohol was more about getting out of the reality of my life. And I just felt ill-equipped with life. I felt I was so fundamentally insecure, fundamentally inadequate, and I felt inferior to everybody. And that comes from that background that I've sort of glossed over a little bit, where, you know, I was the back end of 12 children in an Irish family in Birmingham. And so it was, you know, it wasn't great times. There was lots of domestic violence. And
Mum and Dad alcoholics, or?
I would say my mum was an alcoholic. My dad was a heavy drinker. And there was a lot of violence between those two. They were breaking up for 30 or 40 years. And obviously, as you can tell from 12 kids, there was periods of reconciliation, shall we call them. But, truces were called, and I was referred to quite laughingly as the Sunday afternoon slip-up. But it gave me a lot of fear as a kid, and a lot of sense of dread, and you know, I hated where I come from. I hated what went on when they came back from the pub. They used to go out as quite an attractive looking couple, and then back they would come, and the records would go on, and the violence would start, and I used to escape to fantasy world, really. And one of the earliest pieces of music that I remember was the Beatles and Penny Lane, because that was used to help me. It was quite a happy song to me in quite a sad environment. So that's probably my earliest memory of listening to music to change the way I felt. But the other things, of course, is that I was running into delusions, wanting to be things that I fancied the idea of watching. They used to go out and leave me on my own and leave me £0.50, which is 12.5p an hour, remember?
Wow.
But for that, you could get a bottle of pop and a packet of crisps.
Absolutely.
And I used to sit there and watch Simon Templar, the Saint, and he used to all these fantastic travels. He would be going to Paris and Nice and London and Rome. Here am I sat in Ladywood in Birmingham, you know, a scraggy ass little kid. But the ambitions were there, but I never had any ideas that life would take me that way. So my earliest memories of drinking were not positive. They were as a result to change the feelings. You know, that's.
And did you ever try to stop drinking before? I know you've been very successful in AA. Did you ever try anything else before that, just on willpower or any of the other sort of agencies? That...
I found it quite easy to stop.
Right.
I found it difficult to stay stopped.
Yeah, funny that. Eh?
And that's a common phenomenon.
Yeah.
I could stop for, you know, important things that were coming up. And then I'd find that, you know, just at the wrong time, you'd go on a binge and you'd cause havoc, which is sad. But as I say, I spoiled not only my life with my behaviour, and it is important that I separate the alcohol from the behaviour, because if you like, I suffered from Robbism before I ever picked up alcoholism. And I've come to discover that alcoholism is a symptom of the real problem, which is it's an inside job, as they say. Yeah. And I had to deal with who I was, what I was, and how I lived my life before I could get an element of emotional sobriety.
I think you hit on it before, though, and you know, we're not bad people. We're just sick people trying to get well. You know, and alcoholism is recognised by the World Health Authority as an illness. So you know, it's not that we're just, you know, weak-willed or nasty or horrible people. Alcohol might turn us that way, but we're, you know, deep down we're good people just trying to get well.
I like to think of it as that Robert Louis Stevenson book, the sort of Jekyll and Hyde, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. You know, there's always been a nice Rob in there, and eventually the monster that was Mr. Hyde became more prevalent in my life and more days, and that monster sort of controlled. I took the poison, I took and did everything I did, but it was in this state of I've got to fix me, I've got to get me out of it, and this compulsion was practically impossible to resist. When it's like getting into a ring with Mike Tyson, you know, the chances of me beating Mike Tyson are quite slim. You know, and yet every time I thought about it, I thought I might have a chance this time if I catch him just right. You know, so for me it was important that I came into AA. I knew how to stop drinking, but I didn't realise I wasn't prepared, more than I didn't realise, to change myself or my life enough to the point where I didn't have to implode, and I didn't have to sort of drink to make. I found other ways of coping, other more wholesome and healthier ways of dealing with life on life's terms. And life's terms seemed very unfair many times in my recovery. You know, like I arrived in AA supposedly successful, and within a couple of years, I'm divorced, I'm bankrupt, I've been arrested, I had my passport seized in the Swiss bank. You know, my life went completely downhill from a 6-digit income in 86, 87 to £6.60 a fortnight off peak bus pass. It's not easy to say that one. So, you know, those were times when I imagined I would never be able to stay sober, and yet in AA I was able to deal with my divorce, deal with the custody battles, deal with, you know, building my life back up, if you like. And I was able to do it one day at a time, staying sober, you know, with the help of many people in the fellowship, the program of the fellowship, but also having to act. It isn't a program for talk. No. You know, you need to do. You know, you have to act out and get on with stuff and change the way I interacted with the world. And I remember saying that I just wanted to be happy. but I didn't know what happy meant. I thought happy was money, or cars, or women, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And to understand that happy was the absence of conflict. And for me, most of the conflict that came into my life was caused by me. Stuff happened, like, you know, when I look at my mum and dad, and you asked whether they were alcoholic, and at some point they said, you know, what was your mum's dad? Well, mum and dad lost 5 children before I got here.
Right.
They got burnt out in the Troubles in Northern Ireland, and you know, her father ended up in a lunatic asylum for 57 years.
Okay.
Now he'd have been treated in the community, but then so she had lots of sadness in her life, and she turned to alcohol to deal with her emotions and resentments. And as we know, you know, a resentment is a sort of catalyst to an awful lot of pain.
Absolutely.
And trouble.
I think, so just cutting across you there, I think we're ready for your first record now.
Yeah,
Okay.
so this is the Beatles then. Penny Lane, and you've explained why it's Penny Lane, so we'll have a listen to this.
Penny Lane, there is a barber showing photographs of every head he's had the pleasure to know, and all the people that come and go stop and say hello. On the corner is a banker with a motor car, the little children laughing him behind his back, and the banker never wears a mask in the pouring rain. Very strange. Penny Lane is in my ears and in my eyes. There beneath the blue suburban skies I sit and meanwhile back in Penny Lane there is a fireman on an hourglass, and in his pocket is a portrait of a queen. He likes to keep his fire engine clean. It's a clean machine. Penny Lane is in my ears and in my eyes. For a fish and finger pies in summer. Meanwhile, back behind the shelter in the middle of the roundabout, the pretty nurse is selling poppies from a tray. And though she feels as if she's in a play, she is anyway. Penny Lane, the barber shaves another customer. We see the banker sitting waiting for a trim. And then the fireman pushes in from the pouring rain. Very strange. Penny Lane is in my ears and in my eyes. Beneath the blue suburban skies I sit and meanwhile Penny Lane is in my ears and in my eyes. Beneath the blue suburban skies, Penny Lane. Black Country Extra.
Great, thanks for that track, Rob. That brings back a lot of memories. It's going back a few years, that one, isn't it?
1967, that was, yeah.
67.
Yeah, I was
I was a
9.
teenager.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. So, just before we played your record, you were telling us that you just came into AA, and I think you said earlier on that you didn't get it the first time round.
That's right.
How did that all pan out?
Yeah, I think I remember my first wife suffering a lot from my ism more than my alcohol. You know, we talk about the selfishness and self-centeredness of the alcoholic, and I was I was very much that man. And so I put her through an awful lot of emotional pain. And I remember after 2 years drinking, 2 years being in AA, I concocted a row as she was just about to walk out the door to go to Al-Anon, which is a family group. And friendly listeners, it's really important for people to hook on to Al-Anon if you're affected by alcoholism, because there's a remedy there for family and friends. But she used to go to Al-Anon, and I remember constructing this row and then waving the bottle of vodka at her and saying, "Now look what you've made me do." Because she hadn't made me do anything, it was just my madness.
Yeah. It's always somebody else's fault, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just convenient to blame her, and I had 2 children with that lady, and my first daughter was born. My first daughter was born in 1983, Emma, and I couldn't have been happier when Emma was born. We'd been together as a sort of what you used to say courting for 4 years before we got married. For 4 years, and then we had a child. But I was desperate to have a child, and when Emma was born, I remember it was about 2:45 in the morning, and I got back home about 5 o'clock in the morning, and the first thing I did is I broke open a bottle, and I played my second song, which is what was Andrew Gold's version of Stevie Wonder's track, "Isn't She Lovely?" And it's an important track to me because obviously, I love that child big style, but it was also an indication of how my mind was. Because why can't you just be happy? Why did you have to empty the bottle? And it was the perversion of using such a happy event as an excuse to drink. Excuse me. So, using and abusing alcohol became a common parlance habit for me, and I think by the time my son was born in '86, I was now drinking on a daily basis, and I was getting into situations. My morals had gone, my self-control had gone, and I basically hated me. And it was just before Christmas '86 when I came into AA, and life,
this was for the second time.
No, this is the first time. But it's like it's what I'm trying to show you really is that even though in a happy time like that, I would turn to alcohol, and I gave that woman a terrible life, really, unreliable, inconsistent, and so on and so forth. Betrayal. Deceit, all that type of stuff. So there's lots of things that have nothing to do with alcohol, but have a lot to do with my alcoholism, my behaviour, my selfishness. And so, in I come to AA the second time around, having had a drink after 2 years. I remember I worked in the finance world, and I had a terrible binge. And I had people waiting for me to buy a ship in the Bay of Goy, and it was a big contract, and I was asleep in my stupor, drunken stupor, in bed when these people waiting for me in my office, and I couldn't drive. I was jittery, shaking. I must have stank and looked like God knows what. And I arrived, and I basically made such a mess of this deal, priced myself completely out of the deal just to get rid of the people. And the people that worked with me looked at me for the first time and saw this Mr. Hyde had turned up. This nice, quiet Rob that they normally saw had taken a drink, and Mr. Hyde had taken residence. And so, of course, their lives and livelihoods are at stake because they work for me. And, I decided then I would get to AA with a more sincere attitude. And in AA, in recovery, I thought life would just take off and life would be sweet. I'd get an exemption certificate from tax or something like that, But clearly not. And as I said earlier, my life went down the pan when I was another 2 years sober. because my business failed with the recession at the time. I sort of ended up in Switzerland on this particular contract and knew I was bust. It all went wrong. And I phoned everybody and told them to find new jobs. And I just could not believe I wasn't going to get drunk that night. I was in a strange place. I was stuck for a couple of days. And I'll share this quick story with you. I was looking for Alcoholics Anonymous because I'm in AA, but I'm not really in AA, but I'm trying to get back in my head. And I was trying to find the number for Alcoholics Anonymous in my room in a place called Lugano in Switzerland. And I couldn't find it. So I went down to reception and I said to this little fella, and I've got to be truthful, you look like Hercule Poirot. That's what he did. And he said, can I help us? I'm looking for a telephone number. I said, what number is it? I said, Alcoholics Anonymous. He said, sorry? I said, Alcoholics Anonymous. Alcoholics Anonymous, he said in reception. I said, yeah, mate. Yeah. He said, are you a member of Alcoholics Anonymous? And I thought, no, that's just rude, you know. And he introduced himself as Philip, and he'd been 7 years sober.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Now, what was the odds on that? At the lowest point of my life, when my life was going downhill rapidly, and I'm destined to drink.
Yeah.
He had people phone into my room to help me get through that day until I got home. Places that I'd never been to, or places I'd never, and the people I've never seen since, you know. But that's the power of the program, the power of the fellowship. Is that wherever I've worked in the world, and I have worked all over the world, AA has been there.
Yeah, it is.
And remember, I talked about that Simon Templar routine about the travel.
Yeah.
All that came true in my recovery because I was able to go and work and live in places like Monaco and Switzerland and Cyprus, and I've been to meetings near enough the North Pole and down to the sort of Borneo jungles, and left and right of that. So AA is a big fundamental part of Rob.
Absolutely.
You know, and I've spent most of my life in AA, and more than a half of my life in AA, and I know which half I prefer.
You did say early on how long you've been. Can you tell us how long you've been sober?
35 years now.
Wow.
Yeah, so
That's
35
brilliant.
years. Yeah,
It's a lot of days.
A lot of days, yeah. I was promised I'd be 6'3" and good looking, but that's a big fib.
That's fantasy, then.
But
That's brilliant.
yeah, I suppose the question is how do you stay sober? And it literally is that one day at a time.
Yeah.
Living life on life's terms is not easy for anybody, whether you're a drinker or not. But for me, I only had to be sober one day at a time. I only had to be bankrupt one day at a time. I only had to be divorced one day at a time. And this set of tools that Alcoholics Anonymous was giving me was being applied to situations that got nothing to do with AA. And really coming to meetings, working with somebody who'd been through the program, who understood the program deeply, at what we call a sponsor. That person was able to show me how to live and deal with life when things got really tough. You know, when we lost baby and stuff like that, and with bankruptcy and all sorts of stuff. So the program works, the fellowship works. It's not just one component. You go to AA meetings, you're sorted. You've bought the books, you're sorted. It's the whole job.
I think initially it's about stopping drinking, isn't it? That's what you come to AA for. But
Yeah.
over a period of time, it teaches you how to handle whatever life throws at you, be it bereavement, be it bankruptcy, be it, whatever. We can cope with that just one day at a time. And that's how it works. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing. Moving on then, can you tell us how your life has changed since you came into the fellowship and how it feels to be a recovering alcoholic, I guess?
Yeah, I suppose superficially, if you looked at my life, I've been married to my current wife, my second wife, for over 30 years. So it looks like Mr. Suburbia again, although I live in the sticks. But I've got 4 children. So I've got 2 AA babies. So my children are, from 41 down to 24. And none of them have seen me drunk, which is a big deal. None of them had to run to the police station like I had to as a kid. So the collateral damage that goes on in alcoholics' lives can also, you can see collateral recovery in the family, and the family afterwards is a big part of how we recover and how we cause less chaos, and we have less conflict in our lives, so we're able to cope better. And my children know that Dad's an alcoholic and that Dad goes to AA, and it's a big part of his life. But they don't see the Mr. Hyde.
They haven't seen the bad bits. So,
They haven't seen the bad bits.
Beautiful.
So the recovery program is stretched out into my family, my kids. And I'm a very loving dad, and they're a very loving set of. My family life is very, very special to me, and I understand that it's special for lots of other people too. But when I was an active alcoholic, drink took precedence over them.
Yeah.
And my recovery has to sort of take precedence over them, so that I can keep looking after them. But my wife and I, we renewed our vows after 20 years, so that's 2013. So I've been married a long time to this lady, and she's very special. And when she renewed the vows, the third song that I've asked for was where she walked down, and she had this we had this Eva Cassidy song playing, and You Take My Breath Away. And that's not just being overly frothy and emotional. What I'm saying to you is the recovery that I'd experienced at that point and continue to experience now is such that I was able to appreciate my life. And there's this woman who was not only signed up for the first time, but now she's renewing a membership. And because she's an integral part of my recovery. She's been there through difficult times, and my life is good. My life is very good. It's beyond my wildest dreams, and they used to say that you'll have a life beyond your wildest dreams. I thought I'm going to win the lottery or something like that.
It's not about that, is it?
Not about that at all. But it's given me so many things. Being sober, the physicality of not being dead is the first thing, because that's what happens to most people that drank like me. To have my 4 children in my life and my grandson in my life, to have a healthy appreciation of life, and also a healthy respect for alcohol, because I'm not fixed. Although I haven't had a drink for a long time, I'll always be an alcoholic. I'll never be fully recovered. But I don't have to suffer from my alcoholism.
No.
And I don't have to endure sobriety. I can enjoy sobriety because of the way my life has, been put back together. And I don't know how long I've got on this earth, but I'm determined to stay sober today. Yeah. And that's all I can do. I can't do nothing else than that.
And I think people, in the early days when I was told that I could never safely drink again for the rest of my life, I was absolutely mortified, because drinking was the one thing I was good at. I was crap at golf. Couldn't play football.
Couldn't get to the windmill.
By crikey, could I drink? But life went like you. Life went down the pan when I carried on drinking, and since I stopped, life has changed dramatically. And I'm one of the fortunate ones that since I came in, I've never picked up another drink. I haven't been out there again. So it's and you just think, what am I going to do with life? Socially, because it was a huge part of our lives. But since I've come into AA, the fellowship and the friendship and I've had some of the best nights out I've ever had in my life in sobriety with people in the fellowship, and it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And you don't have the consequences then the next day.
Absolutely,
you don't have the consequences. Right, I think we're ready for your next record, Rob, which was Isn't She Lovely, which was dedicated to your daughter, Emma. To your daughter.
Yeah, and we have discovered that Andrew Gold did do it. Didn't he? But this is Stevie Wonder.
Making one that's lovely.
That's great. Thanks for that one, Rob. That's a lovely track, that. Before we start again, can I ask Dec to dish out the contact details for anybody that's listening out there that wants to know how to get in touch with us?
Absolutely,
Dec.
Dave. Yeah, thanks very much. There's various ways to contact us in AA. The easiest way is to go to the Alcoholics Anonymous UK homepage. So if you just Google that, it'll be the first one on the top. In there's a bundle of information. You've also got the national helpline number, which is 0800 91 77650. That's 0800 91 77650. You can also contact us via email, which is help@aamail.org. Another nice little feature is Find a Meeting. So if you click on the Find a Meeting button, you can put in your postcode, the day of the week, and it'll give you all the meetings that is within your area and the times, and you can get them on Zoom and live. Thanks, Dave.
That's great, Dec. Thanks very much. Okay, Rob, just coming back into it, you've been around a long time. 35 years is it's half a lifetime, isn't it? Have you seen many changes over the years in the way AA works, or is it pretty much...
Yeah, I suppose technology has changed the way people come into the fellowship. In my day, you used to go to an old church hall in Birmingham and answer the phone, and you sort of rotate that. You go down this back of this very dark cemetery, dark church, up into an old, cold, horrible place, take the calls, and then people would go out at night to visit these people.
visit the people, yeah.
What we call a 12
12-stepper, yeah.
And a couple of lads would go out to see a fella, or a couple of women would go out to see a lady, or a double act, male and female, if necessary.
Yeah.
Whereas now most people go online and go, oh, okay, I'll have a look. And they appear in the room, and that makes life easier, I think, for them.
Yeah.
I suppose the biggest change was when COVID came, and the lockdown was here, and we couldn't have meetings.
Yeah.
And then the Zoom meetings came up, and of course, I'm not a big participator in those. I prefer the live meetings.
Sure, absolutely.
But a lot of my friends do. They do. No. They save lives.
Yeah.
And
I think initially it was started out on Skype, and I don't know where Zoom came from.
Okay,
Zoom came from nowhere, but we've got a lot of people in the fellowship, and some of which have done shows here back in the day. We call them our Zoom babies.
Oh, right.
They came in when Zoom was on. There were no live meetings, so the only option was to get online, and
I think that was a tougher way in, actually.
I think it was, but it saved lives.
Definitely,
it saved lives, and there's a lot of those people are still very active members. And now that when the live meetings came back on, because I think we had the best part of a year, didn't we, with no meetings whatsoever. And then when they started up again, we could only have 15 people in a room, and we had demands from 30 odd people, so we were having to book slots in. And we started doing 2 1-hour meetings instead of 1 hour and a half meeting, just so that people could come. And very often, if a relative newcomer turned up, some of the old timers, as you and I are affectionately known, would go out the room and let the newcomers take the place, because that was the priority, isn't it, for that? So, but it was an absolute lifesaver, and they're still going on now. I mean, the live meetings are back up and running, and you can get to meetings, anywhere in the world, live meetings, but you can get onto Zoom again any time of the night or day. There's an AA meeting going on somewhere in the world that if you need it, you can get it. So it's
I think the way you come in, is fabulous. You can do it in a more modern sense, if you like. But the essential thing is that you need to come. You need to give yourself the chance of recovery. And as they said to me when I came in, give it 90 days.
Give it 90 days.
If you don't like it, you can have your misery back.
Yeah, go back. The pubs are still open.
And that's the way it was. It was tough talking. Because the alcoholic tends to be a bit of a blarney merchant, and so we don't have to put up with that. We can say it as it is, and people give each other license to tell each other the truth.
Sure.
And that's what we call tough love. And they call us out on our baloney. So, but the fellowship for me is so much more than a cafe society. It's not like I come there to be popular or funny or whatever. It is a matter of life and death for me.
Absolutely.
Today, as much as it was in '86, I want to stay sober today. I'm desperate to remain sober one day at a time.
Yeah.
And okay, pressure eases over time as you get the
Yeah,
habit of being
sure.
usefully sober.
Sure.
But it's just staying emotionally sober. And if I come away from the fellowship, as I've seen other people do, the link to that emotional sobriety rots quite quick.
Yeah.
And inevitably, a lot of people can drink.
Yeah, I think you touched earlier on. You said that the relationship you've got with your wife and your family. AA is this. As much as you love them and they're a huge part of your life, AA is the single most important thing in your life. Because if you lose that, the family goes.
Yeah, it seems such a wrong thing to say.
No, but it's right.
But people don't get that. How can that be more important than your wife and
Yeah,
children?
yeah.
Because as you say, without being sober,
It goes.
the monster comes out and the family goes again.
Yeah. I remember when I first came up this way, going back a few years. It was one of the regular guys, and he's still around, bless him. He said that. He said, my sobriety is the single most important thing in my life, more important than my wife, my kids, my grandkids. And I thought, what a miserable... I won't tell you what I really thought. What a miserable so-and-so he is. But, I never heard it quite put that way before. But he's absolutely right. Because if we take our eye off the ball and we don't do what we're told to do, or we don't do what we're told these days. We don't tell people what to do. Supposedly, we make suggestions, don't we? These days. When I came in, I'm sure it was the same when you were there. It was just do as you're told,
do it or die.
Do it or die. Yeah. And that was the answer. So but it is. It has to be. You've almost got to have it. I always say you've got to have it in your heart, in your soul, almost in your DNA. AA has got to be, and for those that have got good long-term sobriety, AA is a huge part of their lives, and it's really important that we keep that going, I guess, from that side. Okay, you're living proof that there's another satisfying and enjoyable life after drinking. What advice would you give? If there's people sitting listening to this thinking, "Ooh, yeah, I drank like he did," and what advice would you give them? If they're wondering about their own drinking behaviour.
I suppose, like people before me have said, if you've got the question in your head about, have I got a drink problem? Ordinary drinkers don't have that question.
No,
the chances are you probably do have a problem. Yeah. So it isn't about coming to AA so you get diagnosed as an alcoholic. That's not the purpose at all. The idea is you come to understand the condition that you may have. If you are an alcoholic, I'll guarantee you one thing: if you carry on drinking, it will only get worse. And the way it was said to me, it was like a train journey. At the end of the train journey is insanity and death, but there's lots of stops on the way. And if you feel you've got an issue with drink, come, listen, sit, drink tea, have a laugh with us, and find out what alcoholism is about, how, if anything, can be done about it. What you can do about it. As I say, if you come in and you decide you're not an alcoholic, there won't be a queue of people holding you back. No. It'll be for you to come and go.
And the thing is, nobody in AA will tell you you're an alcoholic.
Absolutely.
People come in and make their own minds up, having sit and listened to stories like yours and everybody else's in the room, and relating that to their drinking habits. And then they make their own mind up, don't they?
Absolutely. I think that's the essence. Is give it a shot. If you're not an alcoholic or you don't have a problem with drink, the worst you're going to do is you could put the ounces on with the chocolate biscuits we eat. But you'll find out about your condition. And if you are an alcoholic, the rest of your life is ahead of you. And you can have had your last drink. If you're sat there with a glass in your hand now, and it's dribbling down the side of your rim of your glass and down your knuckles, and you're vegetating in front of the telly, you need never drink again. You can have a life beyond your wildest dreams. And the recovery is there. or you can choose to carry on and choose the consequences that goes with that.
Yeah.
I don't want people to drink or to die, but I don't lose any sleep over other people drinking.
No.
You know, if people choose to carry on drinking and the result is abject misery and then death, that's their choice. I know what that looks like. I know what that feels like.
I've seen that as well.
And I don't want to be there.
No, it's not pretty.
And, you know, when I think about when I was 28 and bloke said to me, "You need never drink again, son," I thought, how the bloody hell is that going to happen? I'm 28. You know, these were old, grey-haired, fat old blokes. And I thought, that's all right for you, mate. You're going to die soon. but for me, you know, it was like, how's that going to happen? And so if anything, you know, beyond my wildest dreams is great, but at least I've become grey-haired, fat and 60-odd. So I'm grateful for that.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for my life, my recovery, my wife and children, the work that I do. I'm a useful person to have around the
Member of
family.
society, yeah.
And I suppose society, but mostly in the family, you know. That makes sense.
Yeah, it is. And it's, no, it is, it's, you know, gratitude is a huge part of what we do. And, you know, we're grateful for what we've got and one day at a time. And, you know, you said AA it's a progressive disease. And as long as you're drinking, it gets progressively worse.
Yeah.
When you put the drink down, life gets progressively better. You can have this life beyond your wildest dreams. You know, it really does. It really does work.
And beyond your wildest dreams doesn't need to mean money. And
No, it doesn't
wealth.
need to mean you want to win the lottery.
It just means peace
of mind and serenity. I
and
think
to
is-
be as non-toxic as possible.
Yeah.
You know, to be benign and to be able to interact with the world, and not be at war with everybody, not to be in conflict with everything. And we've got a whole world of conflict out there at the moment.
Absolutely. So, given the length of time since your last drink, aren't you? You know, we hear people say, "Aren't you cured? Why do you still need to go to these meetings? Aren't you cured yet?"
Yeah. I used to think, remember a fellow telling me he was a year sober, and one fellow was 7 years sober, and I thought, you liar. I thought, if you were 7 years sober, why you keep coming
Why
to
you still
these
come in?
rubbish church hall meetings on a Wednesday night? You know? And, you know, the reason I keep coming back is because I still need to recognise my alcoholism and to not only treat my own alcoholism, but I suppose, to be fair, to be useful to other people coming in, so that they don't see somebody who's 2 weeks sober, 4 weeks sober, 10 weeks sober. You know, that there is long-term sobriety,
Sure.
there is long-term life enjoyment, and to give people hope that the program can work. And, you know, I never thought that I would be sober. I thought, well, that's going to be okay for them,
Yeah.
but
But not
you're
for
going
me.
to mess it up.
Yeah.
And as I said, after 2 years, I did.
Yeah.
But that's because I did nothing about my recovery.
Sure.
So I would say that, you know, to be able to show people that there is a way out, and that it's not rocket science.
No.
Don't take the first drink
Yeah.
and you can't get drunk.
Yeah.
When they said that to me, I thought, you're insulting my intelligence. Is that
Yeah.
it's not the first drink, mate, it's the 11th one's my problem. You know, but I had to stay sober, knowing that I mustn't pick up the first drink.
Yeah.
Because if I
That's the
don't
one.
pick up the first, I won't have the
won't
second or the seventh.
Yeah. No, that's it.
So genius, really.
Yeah.
But it had to be that simple.
Yeah.
It's just, how do I live without the need to pick up a drink?
Yeah.
And that's where the fellowship and the program comes in.
Absolutely. It's and it's, you know, you build it into your life, don't you? I mean, we've got a guy in Kidderminster, bless him. I mean, he's 53 years sober,
Yeah.
and he still does 3 or 4 meetings a week.
Yeah.
You know, and that's how he's got to be 53 years sober.
Absolutely, yeah. That's one day at a time, yeah.
Okay, I think we're about coming to the end. Ready for your last record, I think, Rob. Can I just say, you know, just a huge thanks for coming along and for your openness and honesty. It's been an absolute pleasure listening to
Thank
you,
you,
mate.
Rob.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. And the last one is...
This is Eva Cassidy. It's You Take My Breath Away. And again, it's just brilliant sitting listening to this. Well, it's a privilege sitting listening to everybody's stories. So thanks, Rob, for coming in.
Billy.
Here she is then, Eva Cassidy, and You Take My Breath Away.
Sometimes it amazes me how strong the power of love can be. Sometimes you just take my breath away. You watch my love grow like a child, sometimes gentle and sometimes wild. Sometimes you just take my breath away. And it's too good to slip by, too good to lose, too good to be there just to use. I'm gonna stand up on a mountain top and tell the news that you take my breath away. Sometimes it amazes me how strong the power of love can be. Sometimes you just take my breath away. Your beauty is there in all I see, and when I feel your eyes on me, oh, don't you know you just take my breath away. And it's too good to slip by, too good to lose, too good to be there just to use. I'm gonna stand up on a mountain top and tell the news that you take my breath away. Oh, yes, you take my breath
Live from the Black Country, online, on your mobile,